Hey, everybody. So today we have a very special guest, someone who's near and dear to my heart, Miss Tanya Ferguson. And
Hi.
hey, she works with us here at SLS Senior Life Services. She's an extremely successful woman, and she's been with SLS going on 12 years now.
Yep.
Tanya went from starting out to having over 6 million in production between her and her team. Now she's built a pretty significant sales team, and she's an amazing trainer. She's an amazing agent. She's learned a lot. We're about to provide you guys a ton of value today, so for sure, stay tuned. But first, Tanya, introduce yourself and let's give us a little bit of a background here so we can know who you are.
So I'm Tanya Ferguson. By the way, thank you for having me today. I have been in the insurance business, I like to say, since the Stone Ages. So this is before leads. This was when we were knocking on doors and, walking up and down office parks. As the business has progressed and time has gone on, we've got leads now and being able to see the business change along the time period. I will say this is the best time to be in insurance because in those first few years, it was just trying to figure out, who to talk to and how to talk to them and how do you get past cold calling out of a phone book, and then as time has gone by, oftentimes you find yourself being that agent that is just trying to find a home. And that's who I was. I was the first one out the door. I was the last one home. I was working hard. I was doing all the stuff, but I was doing enough to kind of survive, but I was never making enough money to thrive. And I
Mhm.
saw people making money in the insurance business, and I thought, this just doesn't make sense. How come I can't figure this thing out? And when I got to SLS, that's when, the business as a whole, I was taught really how to be an agent. And then I was taught really how to look at my insurance business. And so from coming here, I got here and I struggled the same way everybody does mentally in terms of, breaking through an income ceiling and all of that stuff. And as I started to work as an agent and as I started to plug this process in, um, I went from, implementing to a top producer in 90 days. And then
Awesome.
I was never not one kind of going forward. And
Hmm.
then I realized, I wonder if I can teach this to somebody. And as I started to teach it to other people, I started creating successful agents. And from there, I said, okay, I think this is the road that I want to go down.
Awesome. Cool. Love that. That's Tanya's career in a nutshell. And I'm sure there's a lot of other successes and blood, sweat, and tears that went in it. And, what you guys are seeing now is essentially the tip of the iceberg when it comes
Right.
to what Tanya's gone through. So she's at a pretty high level of success for herself now. Um, but there's definitely some things that we can learn from Tanya in terms of maybe how to shorten that gap and from the things that the mistakes she's made too, and what can build on from there. So what we're going to touch on here are first we're going to bring people through how you would handle certain things in a sales process. Now, Tanya has a unique perspective on it because she went from selling face to face primarily to then transitioning to selling over the phone during the pandemic, which is really, really cool to see her and her team make that full transition. So, what first off, let's get mentality. So what type of an attitude? I think that comes first. So what type of an attitude
Mhm.
and mentality should someone have when they get on the phones and they're going to get into telesales?
So there's a couple things that you have to do. One thing that I think is really important, and this kind of speaks to attitude, but it also speaks to preparation. I think that in order to get your mindset right and kind of be ready for the day, you have to be prepared, right? That allows you to kind of relax. So I talk about having a cadence to your day and the day before kind of setting things up. As people will learn about me, I'm a wife and a mom of 4 kids. And so my life has these kind of 3 sections in it. And so I've got the children that I get set up and make sure that they're ready to go the next day. Work, making sure that you have, when you're in telesales, making sure you have your snacks, you've got your water so you don't have a lot of breaks, that you're not moving around. Anything over the course of the day where you're thinking, man, I wish I had this kind of at my fingertips. Make sure you have it at your fingertips the next day. So you do all that in the evening. And then my home, making sure that the stuff is done, laundry is done, cooking is done. And depending on the stage that you are in your career, this might be, one pot meals that are sitting off that everybody can kind of hold on to. When you do that, then you're prepared for the next day. It's easier to get your mindset right
Hmm.
because now you're not thinking about all of the distractions that you know about. You're prepared for the ones that you don't foresee. And now that you can go into the day, you can say, okay, now I'm ready. And because I've taken care of all those things, I'm ready to help anybody that answers this phone. Everybody that picks up the phone today is going to get my absolute best. They are going to get my 1%, my 100% attention and focus. And I'm going to make sure that by the end of this call, I help them with something. And I'm going to walk away with that sale. And I go into it with that mindset every single time.
Okay, perfect. So cut out distractions and just focus on, hey, every call we make is going to be a sale, and just we that's huge because it's so easy when you're at home to just get up and do something else, right?
It's so easy to do it. And the thing is, you're gonna have distractions that you don't foresee, right? Things that pop up out of nowhere. So really what you want to do is you want to be intentional about planning for distractions that you do foresee. And so take care of those. Make sure you know the ones that are coming. You take care of those. And so now the ones that show up that you didn't realize were coming, you can take care of them quickly, or you can move them to the side quickly, and then you can get back to it. So much of our business is not the business itself, it's all the other stuff that's around and outside the business. And if you can minimize all of that, now you can focus and now you can be the best.
Awesome, love that. Guys, by the way, if you find value in any of this, please subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, share it in your insurance group chats. I promise we're not going to try to come poach your agents. That's not how we roll. So, just reach out. We're just here to provide value to people. Um, so, Tanya, let's just let them know too, right? Because some people may say, "Oh, that's easy, no distractions at home. Who's she? Who's she? She's probably just this single woman who's got all this stuff, right? So, with no kids. So let's give them a little background on, um, you know, your
Yeah.
family life.
Right, right. I'll take you back kind of as a first year agent, right? Because that's what so many are looking and that are watching, are first year or second year agents that are
Yep.
coming up. And you do have my children. My oldest two were 3 and 5 at the time, and I was in the field, and these were 12 and 14 hour days in the
Oh yeah.
field, and I had to remember a couple of things. you know um Growing up, I had parents that were working, and so they weren't home at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They worked far, and they drove in, they got home about 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that was perfectly fine for me as a child. But I know, looking at it, thinking from a parent's perspective, you're like, man, I'd like to be there a little bit earlier. And so when I looked at this business and I saw what people were making income wise, I had a choice to make. I had a choice to say, okay, I'm going to come home every day at 5 o'clock, or I'm going to sacrifice this year. I'm going
Mhm.
to sacrifice this time, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to crush it. And when I crush it, now I have flexibility with my time. So I enlisted anybody that could help. I did those crock pot meals. I did laundry at 2 o'clock in the morning. I made sure that I was out all day, 100% focused, and saying, okay, I don't have any time to waste. I don't have any time for this to drag out and for me to play around and for me to do
Mhm.
this halfway. I've got to go in 100% because I do want to get back to my family. And what that year did is it allowed me to lay such a strong foundation that then I was just able to build on top of it. So ask your friends, your family, anybody that will help. Enlist whatever and whoever you can. Take advantage of free resources. But I want to say it's Brad Lee that said, if you don't sacrifice for your goal, then your goal becomes the sacrifice. And I had
I
to
like
say
that.
that to myself, right? If you don't sacrifice this window of time for your kids, then you're going to sacrifice a lifetime of time. with your kids. And so in that, it allowed me to really get deep and focus. And this business can be for anybody. But there's no way around that, that sacrifice and cutting those corners. There's no way around it. So just do it as quickly as possible so that you can have some room and some flexibility.
I love that. That's huge. And like you turned your excuses into reasons, right? I hear Cardone
Absolutely.
says that. He's like, turn your excuse into a reason. And Rory talks about it. And he talked to me about it the other day and some other agents. And he was like, Rory, by the way, is the guy who owns the IMO that we're with. Super awesome
Mm-hmm.
dude.
Yep.
Um, and he was saying that like because of all the work he put in, he was the only parent, only dad at all of his kids' sports careers who was able to go to every single one of like their games and practices and all that because he put in that time to make the money to take that sacrifice. Even if they had a tournament in like 3 hours away in the middle of the week on a Wednesday, he could say, "Hey, I'm
I'm
busy from
going.
noon to 5. Like
Yep.
I'm gonna go there, come do the thing, and come back." So like that sacrifice is huge. So, okay, cool. So now we have a little background. We understand the mentality of what it takes to be successful and to prepare yourself to put in the work. Now let's jump into it here. And when someone first makes those first phone calls, what are the most common um, hiccups that new agents make? And how would you recommend for them to overcome those?
There's a couple of things that are super, super simple. And one of the things that's really simple that I talk about a lot is pausing. When you are doing a script or you're talking to somebody for the first time, right? And you say a sentence, you pause at the end of a sentence, right? It's what everybody does when you're talking. And so when you are running a script for the first time and you're nervous, you're already wanting to pause. You already can't wait for the end of the sentence, right? So that you can just kind of catch your breath, start breathing again. So you say the sentence and you pause, and then what happens in that pause? They immediately jump in and they have
Mhm.
something to say, and that's where the first objection starts, right? So instead of pausing at the end of a sentence, you pause in the middle, and then at the end of the sentence, you actually run it on into the next sentence. And what happens is because the client doesn't know how to follow that cadence, that pace, they don't stop you. Because now that you've stopped in the middle and they didn't know to stop you then, you get to the end, but it just runs on into the next one. It just throws them off just enough that they listen. And all you really want is for them to listen for that first, few sentences until you get to that question that you're ready for them to answer. And then when you get there, they've heard enough of what you need to say. And so now you're able to go a little bit further in that conversation. So it seems silly and it seems simple, but it's something that will extend your conversations a million times over.
Okay, awesome. I love that. That's huge. So now, people are the most common objections that people run into, right? Because we can have, regardless, however, the greeting is, the tempo, tonality, all that stuff, we're still going to run into objections, and you guys will still run into people who tell
All the
you
time.
not interested. And this is important too, guys. Keep this in mind. Any of this gold that she's giving you here, just if you use it once and it doesn't work, keep using it, okay? Because
Right.
I just want to give advice from what I see new agents do a lot of times, where they use one rebuttal and they're like, oh, that rebuttal doesn't work, I'm not going to use it. And it's like, hey, it works more than anything else that we've tried, right?
There you
So
go.
it's not like it works every time, but it's going to work more than probably something else. So if someone tells you, if someone, new agents call and they're like, yeah, I'm not interested, how would you handle that?
So anytime somebody's not interested, the first thing that you do is just agree with them.
Mhm.
Oh no, I can completely understand that. Get them on the side. Make everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. So make sure that you're hearing them, right? Oh, I can completely understand that. Yeah, no, most people aren't interested as soon as I'm calling because my goodness, I just made this phone call to you, right? But don't worry about that. That's probably why they had me call you anyway. I am going to share a couple of things that you were interested in because I'm actually just a follow-up phone call. So you were interested when you spoke to somebody, but that's okay. You don't have to try to remember. It's hard to remember with everybody calling you all the time, all these different things. But I'm going to make sure that I help you with the thing that you were interested in. So anyway, and then I'm right back into the script.
Cool.
So anytime that you're overcoming that objection, it's important not to leave that open-ended and not to leave a whole bunch of silence after that. As soon as you overcome it, jump right back into your script wherever you were and just pick up from there and keep moving.
Love that. I tell agents the same thing because people want to be led. So if you say something like she just said and then you stop and you don't keep going, they're going to tear you apart.
Everyone's confused at that point.
Yep.
Everyone's confused.
Yep. So just keep rolling with them. Okay, cool. Now the second most common one, or maybe the most common one, but that's really common too, is I already have insurance. So when someone says they already have insurance, how do you handle that?
So for me, it's a whole step and it's a whole process, right? You don't have insurance. You already have insurance. You start with the same agreement. Okay. Oh man, that's so awesome. I'm so glad that you've done that. And a lot of times people will like to say, most people don't do that. And I actually like the opposite. I said, oh, that's great. I'm so glad that you did that. What made you decide to put that in place? Oh, I did it because X, Y, and Z. Well, that's okay because most of our clients already have insurance. So I like them to feel included. Not that it's something that people don't do. It's something that everybody does. And so it's not even a big deal that I'm talking to you because everybody does it. So that's fine. So everybody, so many people that I speak to already have insurance. So that's perfectly fine. We can absolutely still help you. So let me just ask you a couple of questions. Have you had this insurance for a long time or did you just get it? And then once they tell you from there, it's okay. Most people, they buy insurance, they put it up and they never even look at it again. Here's what we'll do. Let's go ahead and take a look at that policy. And then you can walk into a policy review at that point and really uncover what that person has. And then that leads you down a path of where do I take you from there? But I always make them feel like they are a part of the cool kids. Right? They're a part of the popular group. They're a part of people that have already done this. And the fact that I'm talking to you is not even a big deal because most of my clients do.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, that's huge. I say the same thing. It's just like, hey, great. Most people already have insurance. That's awesome. So, and now in terms of a policy review, that's huge. I put a video out on it the other day, not just a policy review, but something that helped me last week with a sale with it for an agent. And let's explain to people that. So how do you get someone, because a lot of our clients can't even read what their policy, they don't know even if they have the policy, they don't know what it is, right?
Let me tell you, a lot of insurance agents can't read.
Yeah, you're right.
A policy,
yeah,
let alone a client. Yeah.
So how do you get a client to get on the phone with their carrier? Like, what do you do? How do you get them to want to be like, yeah, okay, cool, let's call?
Policy reviews are really important, but they are about rapport and they are about trust and they are about credibility. Right. So if I'm talking to you and I say, I already have insurance, you say, oh, that's great. I'm glad you do. Everybody does. Let's call your insurance company. It's just too much too soon. Yeah. Right. You don't know this person well enough to have done that. So you've got to spark some interest. Oh, okay, you have a policy. Alrighty, perfect. You know what? A lot of people, they buy policies, they put it in a drawer. They don't even look at that thing for years. When was the last time you seen yours? Wow, do you know anybody that paid on a policy, they passed away and the policy didn't even pay out? No, I've never heard of that. Really? Let me tell you how this happens. And then I do a lot of storytelling. So I'm going to share a story of how these things happen, because now what this does is allows that client to get curious about, well, I wonder if that kind of thing could happen to me. And then at that point, if I haven't built enough rapport with them, I'm not going to jump right into that policy review. I'm going to say, yeah, because policies, they can expire. Policies, the price can go up. The cash value can go down. All of these things can happen. So we definitely need to look into that. But before I even do that, I'm so sorry. Let me back up a little bit, and I'm going to back up and we're going to build some rapport. Let me find out a little bit about you, about your family. Where do you live? Do you like to ski? All kind of things where we just get a chance to build some rapport, because guess what that story did? That story already built some credibility. The story already kind of said to them, okay, she knows a little bit about this. And so if I can build some rapport along with credibility, now I've started to develop some trust. Once I build the rapport, now I can go back to it. Okay, so I know we talked about that policy review. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and get your insurance company on the line. I'm going to be right here. We're not going to be changing anything, but we do need to know exactly what that policy is doing right now and what it's going to be doing in the future. Okay, and then we can make that phone call together.
Cool. Yeah, that's huge. And you can't just jump in without having any rapport built at all and be like, hey, let's call your insurance company, because they're not
No,
going to,
it's like
they're not going to
asking your
trust you.
social security number, right? It's like saying,
Yeah.
"Hi, yeah, you have insurance. That's great. What's your social?" And we'll
Yeah.
look at it. Like that's how it feels to the client. It feels the exact same way. Their policies are very personal
Yeah, it is.
to them, and it's important that you take the time and you understand that.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, that's huge, guys. Policy reviews. We get so many sales on policy reviews. It's like most people don't know what they have, and you'll either find a way. And this is the thing, like the client may tell you, oh, I have a $20,000 policy for $50 a month. And you're like, yeah, right. And then you find out they do. And you're like, okay, well,
Yeah,
that has to change your presentation. Or maybe you find out that it's like 5,000 in insurance and 15,000 in accidental. And they convinced themselves it was 20,000 or something. So
exactly.
yeah, exactly. It's going to pivot the way that you present.
You
So
know what? And one thing about policy review too, if you do kind of find out what you just said, and they really do have that 20,000, imagine the credibility that you have when you say, "Man, congratulations, you did a really good job here."
yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
That's true.
it's all about. It's not trying to find problems, right? It's
Mhm.
about reporting the facts, and then once you get to know the client, if there's a need that's uncovered, now we're the person to fill it.
One thing I found too is that if you tell someone that their policy stinks, then like they get so offended. So it's better to have the other company tell them that. Like,
Right.
yeah, I had a woman kick me out of her house one time. I was face to face, and I went, and she got a policy with this company, and they're known for being expensive, and it was a modified plan, and I was selling Mutual of Omaha, and I could get her twice as much coverage for the same price for an immediate benefit. And I told her,
Ooh.
I'm like, man, this is this. And then she's like, oh, the agent said they're going to mail my body to Panama in a private jet when I die. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never heard of that, but that's not a thing. And
That's not a thing.
she got so upset. She kicked me out of her house. She went in her bedroom. She told her sister to come ask me to leave. And I was like, wow. And I'm driving home and I'm like, what did I do wrong? And I'm like, you know what? I like this woman was so proud of her policy. I should have let
Yeah,
them tell her that it
that's
wasn't good.
it.
So
Ask them about the private jet.
yeah,
Let
right.
let
Exactly.
let, let her get that answer from them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so next, so say assume someone doesn't have insurance and everything's cool. You push through the beginning, or you go through it goes smooth, and let's get into what types of things are important to ask, and then how do you build rapport moving through the presentation. So what types? I guess first off, what types of things are important to ask clients to figure out, like, to qualify them?
So, there's a term called needs analysis, right? And it means
Yep.
so many different things depending on where you are. Needs analysis might just be, a set of facts and figures, how old are you? How much do you make? What's 10 times your income?
Hmm.
That in some worlds is a needs analysis. I really like a needs analysis that gets to know the client. Tell me a little bit about what this time looks like when you're not here anymore. Is it a burial? Is it a cremation? Do you have children? If you haven't asked these questions before, in your report building, you need to find this out now. You need to find out, do you have children? Do you have grandkids? Uh, where are they? Do you see them? Do you spend time with them? If you have somebody that starts to talk about their grandkids, their whole tone changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes. Their voice changes, the tone, everything changes. And you are on a search at that point to find out who or what they love. And if you don't find that out, you are barking up the wrong tree and you are going to have an uphill battle trying to close this person. So you want to find out all about family. If that person doesn't have family, maybe they don't have children, maybe they don't have a spouse, but they really love pets. You want to find out, do you donate to the Humane Society? Are you involved in church? Do you give? Where do you spend your time Who or what do you love? You must absolutely find this out before you ever talk about quoting any insurance, before you ever talk about any amounts. And so as you're finding this out and you're going along, anything that you want that person to do, you attach it to a dollar amount. Oh, I'd like to have a burial. Okay, do you know how much burials are? They're $10,000. Great. Well, then we know we need 10,000, right? So you want to leave some money to your kids. How much? 5,000 a piece. I have two of them. Okay, so that sounds like another 10,000. All right, wonderful. Do you want to do anything else? I'd like to leave 10,000 my granddaughter. Perfect. That sounds like we're at 30,000. Anything that client wants to do has a dollar amount attached to it. It is your job to figure out who does that person love, or what does that person love, and then what are the things that they want to do after they're not here, and then we need to figure out how much that costs. And then when we're done, that's your face amount, and then you go from there.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you for that. It's pretty comprehensive. So when you're here, I'm gonna real quick, I'm gonna grab my charger. For some reason I didn't.
Okay. Is that a part of it, Justin?
It was hanging around. It was hanging around the back. My charger was. I didn't plug it in, so I didn't want to lose you here. Okay. So there we go. Okay, so you've qualified someone. And I think the qualification. It's like not only you qualifying them, but you're qualifying yourself for them in that conversation where they're going to decide, hey, do I want to do business with this person? So most sales gurus out there will say, oh, no one cares about the weather and all that stuff. But I promise, if you sell final expense, they care about the weather. That's like the big deal,
They care about the weather. They care about the weather and like health ailments. If you can get into health ailments, you're like, you're golden right there.
Yeah. That's the secret. Cool. So after that, we're bringing someone through the presentation here. And after you figure out what they qualify for, like what types of things should agents look for in terms of presenting the program to solve their problem? Like in terms of explaining like certain benefits and things like that.
Yeah. So as I'm going through it, right. And I love temperature checks and heat checks, and are we on the same page? So as we're going through this and we're deciding how much everything costs, in conjunction to all the things that you want to do, that this client wants to do for their family. And when we're coming up with an amount, and I'm saying these things to you like 10,000, 20,000, oh, it sounds like we're at 30,000. Does that all make sense, Miss Jones? Are we on the right track? Mr. Smith. And as we're taking these temperature checks along the way, and we've come up with an amount, let's say we've come up with $40,000 before it's all said and done. I want to check in with you. Okay, so everything that we've talked about, in order for you to do this, this, and this, and this, and this, this is going to be $40,000. Does that sound about right to you? Yes, it does. Now, understand, I'm going to have all of these conversations about face amount before I ever talk about price. Price is the last thing that we're going to talk about after we establish what this client is trying to do. So now that we have that amount, now it's going to be, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. Mr. Jones, I'm going to tell you what it's going to be to cover your full 40,000 so that you can do everything that you want to do. And then we're going to talk about some other starter programs just in case that 40,000 is a little bit tight. Okay, so we'll talk at 30 and 20. I'll show you what 15,000 is. That's not going to allow you to leave any money behind, but it will take care of a burial for you right now. Okay. Okay. And now we're going to go through price. But when we go through price, they're going to know exactly what the price is in conjunction with what it is that they're trying to do with that policy.
Awesome. Cool. So that way the value is there. So they're not really, sorry, my neck, I messed up my neck. So it's not about price really at that point. It's not about price of it's not like how much do I want to spend? It's like, hey, I want to get as much as possible. Like how much benefit can I buy?
Exactly. So even if I can't do 40,000, guess what they don't do? They don't go 40,000 to 4,500. They go, okay, I can't do 40,000.
Yep.
What is a 38? Okay, well, what's that 30 say? Okay, well, what does 30 do? Well, 30 will allow you to have a burial. You can leave money to your granddaughter, but we might need to cut some money that we're leaving to your kids. Maybe they just get half. So each time that they're coming down, they're understanding that, yes, I'm coming down in price, but I also am making an adjustment in benefit. And so how much of an adjustment in benefit do I want to make to get to the price point? And when you have that tension happening, you don't have somebody that just says, hey, just get what's the cheapest thing you have.
Yeah.
You avoid that conversation altogether. It doesn't come up.
That's awesome. And I think there's kind of like a myth in this industry that our clients can't afford a big premium policy, which is not the
Absolutely.
case
It's
at all.
not even kind of a thing. No.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, and it's the thing, guys, you got to realize you'll never quote someone $100 a month and have them say, or $75 a month and have them say, oh, well, what can I get for $375 a month? Right. But you will get someone who you quote for $375 a month who'll be like, look, I love that plan, but to be honest, at the very most, like how much benefit can I get for like $75? Because that's really like what my limit is. So that's way more likely to happen than the reverse scenario. So
Absolutely.
exactly. Start high, work your way down, and keep
Start
it
high and
benefit
work your way
focused.
down.
Awesome. Love that. Cool. So now we've gone through the presentation and we are quoting. So when you get to the quotes, like you said, you start high, you work your way down. You find
Yep.
that negotiation, right? Negotiating is just coming to an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you handle, we're going to cover some different objections here. So what if someone's like, even if they tell us all the presentation, they can make the decisions on their own. We know we still get people who say they got to talk to their spouse or kids or whatever. How would you handle if someone was like, I got to talk to my kids?
So talking to your kids. So anytime everything starts with that agreement, right? Oh, absolutely. Miss Jones, I can completely understand that. That makes total sense to me. I will say that in this day and age, the fact that you and your children are still close enough to share this relationship that you would want to run this by them, I think is pretty awesome. Sounds like you've done a really good job with your kids, right? Now we're on the same side of this thing. But here's something I want to share with you, Miss Jones. The only challenge is that we haven't gotten you approved yet. So I 100% want to make sure that you run this by your kids, but the thing that we need to run by your kids needs to be the thing in black and white where the insurance company has said that they will accept you. Right now we're in that decision phase on both sides. Nobody has chosen anybody at this point. So as much as you need to choose them, they need to choose you back. And so the conversation that we need to have with your kids is once they have said, yes, we accept you. Now we need to have a conversation with your children. And don't worry, Ms. Jones, I'll be right there with you. So we can all have this conversation and let them know what you have looked at. And when they see this, if they decide that we need to make any adjustments, if they say, you know what, this isn't enough, we need to go up or anything like that, that's 100% exactly what we can do at that time. First, though, let's make sure that you can qualify. If you did, remember, we got to go back to that script. If you did, would you want this made out to Shelly, your daughter? Okay, and we spell her name SH, and we go right into the close.
Yeah, right into the application, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And that's if you guys handle an objection, then make sure you transition immediately back into the application. So like the way I do it is I'll say a rebuttal, and then like the way I start the applications is great. So like if someone agrees to a price, it's immediately, oh, what's your middle initial? Or like, cause that's just something I do instead of saying beneficial, I move into that. Right. But it's like,
yes.
Yeah. So it'd be like, I'll hit the rebuttal and it's like, and then I say it and I'm like, what's the middle initial? And cool.
You got to go right into it. Right into it. Remember, pauses, especially pauses that you don't anticipate are not your friends in these moments.
For sure. Cool. And if you guys say exactly what Tanya says and you're not able to overcome the objections, practice it. They're like practice. And you got to learn like multiple different rebuttals because one may not work. I'm sure Tanya's had people who said that a few times and then she got the egg to crack and she's in there getting the bank and the social. Well, actually, this is the next thing. So what do you say to someone who's like, I don't give my social over the phone? A lot of new agents run into this if they're on their own because they just don't sound credible.
And I think that's kind of what it comes down to. I think a lot of it comes down to just confidence and credibility. Sometimes what happens is when you start asking for things like social and bank account, your voice changes.
Yeah.
And when your voice changes, the client hears something and they can't put their finger on what it is, but they don't like what they've heard. And it's like there's something there, and there's a that lack of confidence is what travels through the phone. And so oftentimes that's what makes the client uncomfortable. So some simple things that we do is we just put socials right next to another number. So it's like, okay, let me get your phone number. Let me just verify your phone number. What is it again? 249-8263. Okay, perfect. And your social? And you'll be surprised at how many times they'll just rattle it right off, number after number, and they'll just rattle it right off, and it won't be an objection because it's just another number, and your voice has stayed the same.
Perfect. So tonality is a big part of that then.
It's huge, huge, huge. Some of these things, when agents are walking out of days and they've spent a day and it's like, man, I didn't get anything today, and this person didn't buy, and this person said this. Oftentimes, if you go back and you listen, there are sales there. And
Yeah.
sometimes these sales are missed in very small things. It's something like tonality. It's something like, man, you gave this client a reason to not feel confident in you, even though you have been confident 75% of the presentation. So a lot of times it's things that we're causing. And if you can hear that, then you can go back and make the adjustments.
I agree 100%. It's usually not, guys, it's usually not anything massive that has to be
Right.
changed.
That's the hard
Like,
part.
exactly. And I tell people, like, just loosen up, like, go in, have a conversation with someone. No one wants to buy from the by the book insurance agent, and the thing is, when you take your insurance exam and you go through the pre-licensing course, it makes you think like that's how you have to be. So, but that's not it. So, okay, cool.
Well,
So
you said the weather, right? They love
yeah,
the weather. That's
yeah,
not in
exactly.
any pre-licensing book.
No,
Uh,
exactly. What are some other common objections that new agents will run into? Because the thing is, guys, our agents here have a lot of assistance and support from the leadership team. Most agents, independent model, they don't have the
Man.
support. So, what are some common objections that I'm sure you hear your agents run into, but someone on their own will run into it more? Starting out, or just any objections in the close? What are some other things?
You know what? It's all the same ones, and there's only about four, right? It's going to be, I'm
Yeah,
going to talk to my kid. I need to talk to my kids. Um, I need to think about it. I can't afford it. Um, the easiest one that you can just let somebody, I just flat out don't want it. Right?
yeah,
No, yes, I've heard all the benefits. Yes, I don't mind leaving them with that burden, but those are about the four. You get that they're varying in creativity in how
yeah.
they in how they're presented, but it's about those four. So if you can get past those four, that's what's so important. I feel like in overcoming objections, there are some people that just go through the verbal jujitsu at the end, right? And overcoming objections, there are always steps and techniques along the way. But if people would take more time early on, as we talked about in that needs analysis, and if you just took more time in the report, and if you took more time building credibility and building trust and taking those temperature checks, what happens at the end are that you just don't have that many objections. You just don't have them. And then when you do have them, it's an objection where it's not, do I want this insurance? It's just, I really don't feel comfortable at this price. And when they're not comfortable at that price, you're just going back to the conversation that you had. No, I understand that can be a little bit tough, Miss Jones, but let's talk about what you wanted to do for your daughter Shelly and for your grandson Max. Are those still things that you wanted to put in place? Do you still want to put it in place at that amount? When you're talking to them from a consultative position, then we know we need to get this insurance. We just need to figure out how. If we're on the same side trying to figure out how do we tackle this problem together, I don't have to fight you. I don't have to twist your arm to get the insurance. I don't
Hmm.
have to do any of those things. All I have to do is go back and reference the conversation that we had And when you were talking about all of those things that were important and all of those things that you wanted to make sure got done or didn't experience a burden when you were gone, we just have to go back and reference those things and then just repackage them and help that client get to the end.
Cool. Awesome. Love that. This is some amazing information for you guys watching this. This is going to really, really, if you apply this stuff that you learn here, it'll drastically change your sales. So, Tanya, anything else that you want to say or provide, or you think that could help people based on your experience of helping agents?
Yeah, there half of our business is this stuff, right? Is this skill stuff. When you are learning, outwork everybody because
Hmm.
you don't know enough yet. And then while you're outworking everybody, give yourself a break. Stop being so hard on yourself, right? That understand that your day one is not somebody's day 100. So allow yourself that time and then learn every day. Every day. Don't expect this business to just fall in your lap. Understand that you've got to get up, and that part of outworking everybody, that's part of the learning and growing and doing and getting better every single day without fail. And then as you're doing that, if that's half of this business, the other half are all your distractions. Guess what? Life will be happening to you at the same way, the same rate, even if you were a barista at Starbucks. So
Yep.
all of this stuff that is happening to you is not just happening because you're in the insurance business. It's happening because that's what life does. So
Hmm.
since you're here and you have an opportunity to change the trajectory of your life, manage that stuff. Manage it in the morning, manage it late at night, and then during the day when it's prime time, focus.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much. Because like she said, half it's skill set, the other half is work. Because there's no shortcuts. The only reason that Tanya is good at this stuff is because she did it for a long time, and she just there like it's the law of compensation. It's called, like, you can't get something for nothing. It's impossible. So if you
It's
want to have this, you can get all the CRMs in the world, all the tools
right.
in the world, all this tech and everything else, but you have to get out there and do it. It's the only way to get good at this. This is a skill you learn. It's a communication skill. Just like if you're going to go play a sport, you have to practice the sport. Don't get it twisted because you're talking. It's hard for you to think I have to get better at talking, but that's
Right.
really it's really what it is. So
It's
it's
really
like,
what it is.
exactly. Well, Tanya, thank you so much, and I appreciate everybody for watching this here. If you want to get in touch with Tanya, just check out the information in the description of the video. Subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, share the video. That helps a lot. Hit the like button, and you don't want to miss this next video coming up. You're going to learn how Peter sold 84,000 AP his second month over the phone as an independent agent. Thank you,
Wow.
guys.
Wow. Thanks, Justin. Be great, everybody.
See ya.